Hey everybody, welcome back. We are in the afternoon session of the Ow, I bit my tongue. We're in the afternoon session of the George Pino trial. Sorry that we're starting a little late. I had a meeting, but we are back, and I forgot the guy's name, but there's an expert in boat GPS on the stand right now. He is being cross-examined by the defense.
Of September.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to now proceed defense cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge, and good afternoon, Mr. Albert.
Good afternoon.
You and I are meeting today for the first time,
Yes, sir.
and wanted to just establish a few basic points when we begin. You were not an eyewitness to the event of September 4, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And you were retained by the state to do the analysis that you've performed today for the jury.
Yes.
Okay. And part of the role that you played was try to sort of recreate what might have happened on September 4, 2022, using the data you were able to retrieve from the GPS device on the Robalo.
Yes.
And so I just want to ask you a few preliminary questions. We got to see Lieutenant Thompson operating his motor vessel sometime much later than September 4, 2022. I think he did it a couple years later.
Yes.
Okay. And in doing that exercise, it would have been relevant and perhaps important to try to replicate the conditions that existed back in September of 2022 so that the visual we see looks as much as possible like the conditions that existed on the day that Thompson did it, the same day of the Robalo incident, right?
Sure.
Okay. And in coming to that effort to try to replicate the conditions, you knew certain details about the September 2022 incident. I'll call it the Robalo incident so that we know what I'm talking about. The Robalo incident occurred at approximately 6:37 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And it was September.
Yes.
September 4, 2022 at approximately 6:37 p.m.
Yes.
So that's in the evening.
Yes.
It was actually still light out.
Yes.
There was actually at least another hour's worth of sunlight.
I believe so. Yes.
And the sun sets in the west or southwest at that time of year.
Yes.
Okay. And so at that time of day, as the Robalo is heading down Cutter Bank Channel, the sun would be off to the Robalo's starboard right side, correct?
Yes.
It wouldn't be exactly 90 degrees to the right, more like 60 some odd degrees, right?
I'd have to calculate it. I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Did you do that calculation?
No.
Okay. And so when Lieutenant Thompson did his exercise, he did it in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. So in the morning, the sun would be off to the port side of Thompson's vessel.
Is it a question? Yes.
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 Okay. And you can assume there's a question mark at the end of every
Will
one
do.
of my statements,
Yes,
but
sir.
if not, I'll clarify. Okay. And at 6:37 in the evening on September 2022, that sun would be about an hour's from the horizon.
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you do any analysis of how the sun would reflect off of any of these markers in doing your analysis?
No.
Okay. Or how the sun would reflect off the water surface itself?
No.
Okay. Now, in terms of the visibility of the Robalo, where the operator is standing at the helm, would you agree that height matters?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're under oath. Tell us how tall you are.
I'm 6'8".
6 feet 8 inches tall.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so at 6 feet 8 inches tall, you'd be a foot taller than a man who's about 5'8". Fair statement?
Yes, sir.
That math we can do without a calculator.
He's 6'8".
And so your line of sight at 6 feet 8 inches tall is going to be better, would you say, than someone who's
I
5
did say
feet
he
8
was
inches
tall,
tall?
didn't
In
I?
his boat,
In the Robalo.
it's going to be worse.
Yours is worse?
Yes,
Because?
because I'm looking right into the electronics box.
So you're almost too tall for that boat?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But if your eyesight is below the electronics, that's a better line of sight than someone who's shorter, right?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay. Let me see if I have the image I wanted. Where did those exhibits go that I put aside, right? No? Hold on 1 second. Did someone put them back? Here they are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so let me show you what's already in evidence as State's Exhibit 104. You recognize that as would that be called the helm or the console? What would you call it?
This is the center console.
Center console.
Looking at the front.
I don't know. I've stopped
So
wondering
someone
why
who's
she
at the
does
bow,
what she
in
does.
front of the boat, this would be a photograph looking back to the stern, the rear of the boat.
Yes.
Okay. And the operator would be on what would be the starboard side of the center console.
On that boat, yes.
Right. And I think you told us it was the starboard side that took the hardest hit here and would likely cause the greatest injuries to people on that boat.
Yes.
And that's where the operator of the boat would have been, on the starboard side.
He's closer to the center line, but yes, he's on the starboard side.
Yes. Now, this boat the Robalo has a windshield.
Yes.
And I'd like to show you what's in State's Exhibit 105. Is that a photograph of the windshield?
Yes.
And do you know if the condition of that windshield as it was photographed and introduced by the state is the same condition it was on the day of the incident?
No.
State's Exhibit 105. Now, when Lieutenant Thompson was operating his vessel, he mounted the GoPro or the camera device in front of the windshield. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So the GoPro was not obscured at all by the windshield.
Correct.
The operator, Thompson himself, would have been several feet back, holding the steering wheel.
I don't know if I've quantified it several, a couple, 3 feet. Yeah.
A
Fair enough.
couple 3 feet is
And so
several.
let me show you
Where'd you go to school?
State's Exhibit 3.
Yes.
You recognize the Robalo?
Yes.
And you see that George Pino is in this photograph. Or there's an operator there, you may not know it's George Pino,
I didn't notice.
but I'll have you double check. That there's a man standing at the steering wheel position.
Yes.
And someone can operate this motor vessel either standing or seated.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether standing versus seated would affect the line of sight of the operator?
It would, obviously, if you're seated, you're a little bit lower and you're a little closer to the top level of the console, so it would affect it, yes.
Okay. Now, in this photograph, there are some of the passengers are standing in the bow area, correct?
Yes.
And the bow area is the front of the boat.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you another photograph, State's Exhibit 69. You see it?
Yes, sir.
That's the Robalo after the accident.
Yes.
And I'm using this because I'd like you to explain it to me, and you're welcome to stand or sit, whatever's comfortable. Tell the jury, what is the freeboard of a boat?
The freeboard of the boat is the distance from the water line here, the boat's floating, resting in the water, to the top of this called gunwale. That's the freeboard.
Okay. And so it would show on this as well. You can see that there.
So the resting water line would be a little below the teal green there.
And when the boat is on plane,
Yes.
is the bow a little bit up, above the
The
water?
bow or the whole boat? Like,
Well, you tell us.
the whole boat will rise up, so it'll give you, depending on the boat, anywhere from a few inches to maybe a foot, it'll rise up higher. And then depending on how you control or manipulate the tilt on the engines and the trim tabs that control the pitch of the boat side to side, and you can push the tab down, and the load on the boat, the amount of weight on the boat, determine how the bow lies.
To achieve a faster speed, does that typically suggest that the trim is so that the bow lifts just a little bit?
Yes, there's kind of a sweet spot when you tilt the motors up. When they're all the way down, push against the back of the boat, the boat tends to push the front of the boat downwards. If you trim it up, the bow will start to rise up a little bit, and there's a certain spot where it gets the most efficiency, and you'll feel the boat accelerate a little bit, and then if you continue to tilt it up, then the prop will start to slip, and it will lose some speed and potentially cause the boat to start focusing where the bow down.
And so a boat can gain speed simply by tilting the engines without accelerating or giving it more gas, correct?
Within limits, yes.
It's not going to go from 0 to 60.
No, you're going to depending on the hull style of the boat, you might gain a couple miles an hour.
Fair enough. Now, and forgive me, Judge, you may not be able to see it, but I'll publish in a moment. Here, you see some of the passengers are seated on what you described as the gunwale or the gunnel of the bow of the boat. Is that what that's called?
So I would categorize that as the bow or on top of the anchor lock on the very front of the bow.
So on the anchor lock.
Yeah.
Okay. And is the gunnel what I'm pointing to here, this sort of white
Yes.
surface here, like a
Yes.
rail? Not a rail.
It's really the top of the flat part.
And when someone wants to board the boat, someone can typically step on the gunnel and then step down into the boat?
Yes.
Fair enough. Now, this boat, Roballo designed it so that there would be seating in the bow area, correct?
There is seating.
Okay, so let me grab another exhibit and you can give me just 1 second. Take a look, if you would, at Never been introduced. I'll mark it then. Is it marked as a state? Forgive me, Judge. Is it a state exhibit? Okay. Let me show you what's been marked as, I think it's States Exhibit 5L, and see if you recognize it.
I mean, it looks like the front part of the Roballo, the bow.
We would offer it at this time.
No objection.
5L, marked for ID, Defense Exhibit C.
And so, Mr. Albert, this is what I'll call the forward seating area. Is that a fair statement, or is that the bow seating? What would you like to call it?
Either one's fine.
Okay. And this is where, according to your review of the file, there were passengers seated in this bow area, correct?
Yes.
There are cushions that go on top of this fiberglass surface, so the person's, forgive my word, butt can be more comfortable than sitting on fiberglass, right?
Yes.
And you recall that when someone is seated in that bow area, there's about 12 inches between the top of the cushion and the gunnel.
Yes.
Okay. So now, you stay with me just 1 second. In Exhibit 3, the passengers are actually sitting on the gunnel, right? If that same passenger that I'm pointing to were seated on the cushion, you'd expect her torso and her body to drop about 12 inches.
Yes, sir.
And so that when seated while the vessel is operating, that passenger's torso and head would protrude above the bow, anchor, gunnel, whatever it's called.
Yes.
Okay, and the pilot looking over the bow might have his or her visibility obscured by the passengers seated in the front of that boat.
Yes.
And if the passengers are, for example, seated, listening to music, waving their arms and dancing in their seat, that could obscure the pilot's view or the operator's view.
Both obscure and distract, yes.
Thank you. And in this case, you know that there were 7 passengers seated in that bow area while the vessel was underway going through Cutter Bank Channel.
Yes.
Now, we know that the Robalo alighted with marker 15.
Yes.
And you testified that you could see from the transfer marks on the edge of the Robalo, there was some green color there.
Yes.
And you've explained to the jury that that green color would have come from the day marker itself, that green marker, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take a look at 22. That's the green marker?
Yes.
Now, the green marker itself is 3 feet by 3 feet, isn't it? The day marker itself.
I think that's standard, yes.
Okay. And so, if I could, can we publish this one on the big screen so that the jury can see it better?
I think so. Which one is it?
This would be State's Exhibit 22. Now,
It's not on the.
not on it?
No.
Okay, so we'll do it this way. Now, let's take a few steps here. If the marker is, I'm going to use this as south. I
Hey,
keep changing north and south. So
corn dog. I keep grabbing the wrong.
this marker 15 down south has the marker protruding above the water line, right?
Yes.
And depending on how high the tide is, that marker to the eye will appear closer to the water line at high tide.
Marginally.
Okay,
Yeah. Maybe slightly.
a few feet, actually, right? The tide could drop from high tide to low tide, could be a several feet difference, right?
Not in this area.
What's the difference?
I think the tide on that given day was 1.75 feet that it rose, so a little shy of 2 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
The marker is 3 feet.
Mhm.
When I say the marker, let me be clear. The day
The
board,
day board.
the green
Yes,
board is
I
3
understand what
feet.
you mean. Yes, sir.
So roughly half or more than half the size of the day board is the difference between it being at high tide versus not being at high tide.
The water level on the marker is a foot higher or lower. The marker itself never moves.
Of course, but
Yeah.
the boat is going to be higher in the water at high tide than at low tide.
Yes.
So that marker to the operator's view is going to look lower when it's high tide.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, on September 4, 2022 at 6:37 p.m., it was high tide, wasn't it?
It was close to high tide, I believe. Yes.
Now, when you first did your analysis in this case,
Yeah.
you had reported that high tide was at 10:29 p.m., correct?
Yep. I just reviewed that, and that was low tide.
And you reviewed that because today I brought that to your attention.
You did. Yes.
So you were operating under the assumption that this entire event, until today, until we're here in this courtroom today, you assumed that the accident happened at low tide. I'm sorry, you assumed that low tide was, well, tell us, what did you assume?
I didn't make any assumptions because I didn't consider the minor difference in a foot or two of water level to play a factor in the collision. However, we have a 6-hour tide cycle here in South Florida. And so if the accident happened at 6:30 and the high tide was at 10:30, we were midway through the tide. And that would have meant that it was about.
Yeah, that's how I learned
Actually,
to
a third of
swim.
the way, right?
My dad took
Low
me
tide
out
would have been about 4:30
right
that day.
before high tide.
4:30, 10:30.
Left me on a
Under your
sandbar,
math,
told me to
6 hours.
swim.
Okay, sure.
Yesterday,
Still high.
Lieutenant Thompson said high tide was at 4:48 p.m. Do you know where he got that number from?
I don't.
But as of today, we now know for certain from your own investigation 15 minutes ago when I asked you to check, high tide was right about when this collision occurred.
No, it was not. It was 4:30. It was 2 hours potentially before the collision occurred.
Double check. What time was high tide? We're talking now about high tide at the Totten Key Station in Biscayne Bay, right?
I don't. I don't have the. So I don't know where the Totten Key Station is located. I did a quick review because you asked me to. So there's fluctuations in the tide in Biscayne Bay so large that high tide at one area might be an hour different from high tide. And I'm speculating on the tide difference. So
He's speculating. We don't want you to
Generally speaking.
speculate, sir.
it looks like the high tide, based on what I looked for, high tide was at 4:44 p.m.
On which day?
September 4th.
At which location?
I don't know.
Okay, well, can you check Totten Key, which is what the,
I can't do it while I'm sitting up here.
Okay.
It would take me some time to find that because it's not something I can just.
okay. Your report said it was at 10:29 p.m., correct? Page 6 of your report?
Yes.
Is there a way that you can, if not at this moment, but later today, do the research and tell us what your final answer is on when was high tide on that day?
Sure.
And what would be the appropriate location to look for to determine high tide? Would it be the closest location to where the incident occurred?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the map of the area?
I am familiar with the map of the area, but I'm not familiar with the locations of the tide stations on the area.
If I show you the map,
Yep.
Exhibit 2.
Because that's not what he was asked to do. He's
Do you
supposed
see
to do
that?
GPS, right? So why are you asking him about tides?
You see Totten Key is just east of the channel?
Yep.
You see that East Arsenicer is just west of the channel?
Yes.
And if those are the two closest tide stations to the event, would those be the best places to look to see what time was high tide on that day?
Yes.
So East Arsenicer and Totten Key.
Okay.
So let's go back to the channel marker. Let me show you what I'm marking as defense exhibit A12 for identification.
Yes.
Does that look familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay, is this a photograph that is included in one of your reports?
Yes.
Offer A12 by the defense.
No objection, Your Honor, to that objection.
A12 marked for ID, Defense Exhibit D.
And Judge, we're going to try to publish it on the big screen. And while Mr. Armelino is trying to set up, do you see that? I think I'm going to need you to join me here.
Sure.
I'm going over here so that they're not distracting us as much.
Again with the stapler.
So on the channel marker, the steel pipe, you see what appear to be barnacles?
Yes.
Okay, barnacles grow underwater. High tide would typically cover the barnacles,
Yes.
and it would cover it. How much above the barnacle line would high tide be?
I don't really know.
A few inches, a foot? So what I'd like to try to do is measure what's the distance from high tide to the bottom of marker 15. So we're going to do that right here. We're publishing it. Judge, this is being published through the insertion of the thumb drive. We are marking as 813 for demonstrative. Okay. So I have a tape measure here. Do you see that the green marker measures on the tape measure about 4 inches on this display?
Yes.
You see that it's 12 inches to the water line?
Yes.
Okay. Would that tell you that from the water line to the bottom of green date board 15 is, on this tape measure, 8 inches?
Yes.
Does that tell you that it's 6 feet from the water line to the bottom of the green date board marker?
Sounds about right.
And that would make it 9 feet to the top of the date board marker, minus whatever the difference is in the tide change if it was high tide
Yes.
when the elision occurred. So that day marker, the boat could strike that day marker, right? How high is the boat, the freeboard we just talked to the jury about, when it hits this marker on the starboard side and then strikes the green marker?
I don't have the measurement from the tip of the bow to the water line.
Yeah.
I think you're asking the wrong person these questions, dude.
That's all right, thanks. Okay, now, you had talked earlier with the jury about how the boat hit hit the starboard side, the right side of the boat, and we know that the gunnel is above the water line,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And when it hits this fixed object, since it hit it on the side, it's gonna sort of flex up, you said.
Correct.
Must be a few feet and it hits the green marker.
Yes.
Took the marker off, but the piling survived.
It did. Okay.
Well, he did use his little toy boats,
Yeah.
though.
I'd like you to take a look at,
So maybe he's there for a little more than GPS? Right? This is the guy that had the little toy boat. right?
A11 for the defense for identification.
But I think he is still asking him questions that he doesn't necessarily know the answers to.
Okay.
Oh, there's
You
a tie
recognize
again.
that?
This cameraman
Yes, you
likes a
recognize
huge tie.
Lieutenant Thompson's vessel.
Yes.
Okay. Offer A11 in evidence.
No objection, Judge.
A11 marked for ID, defense exhibit E in evidence.
But he keeps
I'd like
asking
to-
for questions he has no idea.
Oh, thank you.
I hate when lawyers do that. Maybe his expert knows the answers. That's why he's asking this
Now,
expert.
once again, we know that the day marker itself is 3 feet in height, right? By coincidence, yeah, we zoom it just a little bit, guys, so we can get to exactly 2 inches so that it's easier.
Maybe his strategy is to make their expert look stupid.
Look. That's pretty close, maybe a little bit bigger, move the image to the right. Great. That's good, we'll get it. Not too big, but that's fine. A little bit bigger, maybe? 2, 3, that's good. All right, good. Yeah. So do you see that the marker is 3 inches on this scale, right?
Yes.
And that's 3 inches, and how many inches from the top of the tape measure to the water line, roughly?
From top of from here,
Just
14.
14. Okay. So if we know that each day marker is 3 inches or 3 feet from the water line to the top is how much?
You subtract 3 from 14, you have 11, so that would be in theory 11 feet.
Okay. So the bottom of the day marker, 13A, is at 11 feet. The bottom of the day marker of 15 is 6 feet. Yes. That's a 5-foot difference between the height of the day marker. 13A is 5 feet taller than 15. Yes. Now, I'd like to ask you some questions about the trajectory of the, oh, I meant to ask you. When Thompson did his recreation, did you all track on a GPS the path he actually took?
Yes.
Did you compare it to the Roballo's path?
No.
So what we've seen is.
What?
Well, then how is it that we know what part of the voyage
Whoa.
actually tracks the Roballo's voyage? Let me say it again. What portion of Thompson's voyage
He didn't take
tracks
the same.
the
What?
Roballo's voyage?
The final leg from the second to last marker to the final marker.
13A to 15?
Yes.
The second to last, the green marker, 13A?
Well, technically, the second to last marker buoy, the marker that I deployed,
The floor.
that one's accurate. And I mean, we were reasonably close to his trajectory at that time to line up for the final course.
So to be fair, what you were trying to replicate were essentially what we've heard about the last 9 seconds?
Yes.
Okay. Up until the last 9 seconds, were you all focusing on replicating the Roballo's path?
No. Well, I mean, we were trying to follow closely, but we didn't deploy multiple buoys along the way to directly copy his path.
Okay. So the initial acceleration by Thompson that we see might have been from a different position from where the Roballo was on September 4th.
Yes. Is it initial when we jump up on plane to start? Yes, correct.
Let me show you.
Okay, so I get he wasn't trying to recreate it, but still, he should have taken the
what's been
same
marked as
path.
Defendant's A6 for identification.
Yes.
This is the Cutter Bank channel with the markers in green and red, not to scale.
Yes.
Offer A6 into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
A6 marker ID, defense exhibit F.
Oh, we're gonna hear another stapler in a minute.
Thank you.
Oh, guess not.
And I'm sorry to make you stand and
Not a problem.
get our steps in here. Sure.
What's the point of the GPS thing if he's not gonna take the same exact route?
Marker 15.
I don't understand.
The site of the elision.
Yes.
Markers 15, 13A, and 13 do not make a straight line, correct?
Not precisely. No.
There's an offset.
A little bit, yes.
Okay. As the Roballo is coming down Cutter Bank channel like my finger is now, maybe I should borrow the pointer if that's available. So I'm not touching the screen, but if it's not available, that's all right too. There comes a point where the green marker 13A obscures green marker 15. All right?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Take a look.
Let me show you defense exhibits A7, A8, and A9. Take a look.
Sure. A7, A8, and A9.
Okay.
Am I right?
From the perspective that you took this picture, you can still see it, but 15 is somewhat obscured by 13A. This would be probably a quarter mile more out.
Okay, so let's offer that as evidence at this time.
Yeah, I'd like to watch eye on that.
For that on what? A picture?
As you were looking at defense A7, A8, and A9, are you able to describe for us, given this perspective, where the photographer would have been in relation to the channel?
Not precisely, but it looks like pretty much in the middle of the channel. And this is 13. So, yeah. Oh, you mean on the chart there? Yes. Okay.
Let me just set those down here.
Okay.
And if you could just kind of scooch back a little bit so everyone
Sure,
can see.
okay. So this one looks like it's the furthest perspective. This appears to be marker 12. Yeah, so this would be marker 12, and this would be marker 13. This is marker 13A, and this is 14. So that would be, let's see here, that's 13A. So it's like probably about where that depth reading 2 feet is out here in this vicinity here.
Now, that's obviously a snapshot image, correct?
Yes.
That the defense has given to you. Now, is it your understanding that the Robalo vessel was stopped in place?
No.
Through the channel?
No, it was moving up in the low 40s.
So is this necessarily an accurate depiction of what the operator of that vessel would have seen as he or she was traversing that channel?
No.
Judge, I object to the admission of that evidence.
I believe it. Go ahead.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sure.
This would be a still shot at one point in the line of the channel, right?
Sure.
We don't know sitting here, you weren't there, I wasn't there, whether anybody was actually looking down the channel at that moment in time.
Correct. So this would have been an instantaneous view, but what we also don't know is exactly where the Robalo was from either side to either side. So it's not really, it's tough to say if at any point that 15 was obscured by the channel.
But you can plot that because we have the track of the Robalo. So you could draw a straight line
Yes.
between 15, 13A, and see where does it intersect with the path of the Robalo, because you have the track
Yes.
showing the path. You could actually do that for us.
Yes.
Okay, so high tide
Okay.
and the intersection point where the Robalo, looking down the channel, would see 13, 13A, which would be obscuring 15.
Sure.
Okay. Offer, Judge.
Same objection, Your Honor.
Can we publish it?
Let me introduce. See what's been marked as defense A7, now defense exhibit G in evidence. A8, defense exhibit H. A9, defense exhibit I.
So which one is it?
Sorry.
So
That one is exhibit I.
with number. Oh, we go like that. Defense exhibit I. So from this point of view, if you count the markers, the naked eye, it appears there are 2 green on the left and 2 red on the right.
I mean, I can still see it, I can't see the post, but yes, for a moment in time, when you're transiting, if you're transiting this particular path for a moment in time, the marker 15 would be partially obscured by 13A.
If we could just enlarge it so the jury can see what the witness is describing. You can continue to enlarge until you can see marker 15 behind, but obscured by marker 13A. Now, the other 2 pictures that, there's one, and am I missing one? Oh, they're right here. Wow, thank you. Is this not another one? So I'd like to do these in sequence. So starting with A7. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Q? Or G? What is that? That's a G. Starting with G, at this point in the channel, one can see in this photograph that there are 3 green markers on the left side, right? 15 is the furthest one away, that's the shorter marker, right? Doing that right? Maybe we can do it on the screen here. There we go. Okay. Visually, what is seen, that's it, hold. Just so we're clear, going from left to right, 15, 13, 13A.
Yes,
On the screen here.
yes.
But we know 15 is the one in the furthest distance. Then 13A is behind 13, going south. So southbound 13, 13A, 15, but on this image, 15 is furthest to the left, 13 is in the middle, 13A is on the right. Now let's go to Defense Exhibit H. Need the number?
62.
62. Remember, 13 is in the middle of the picture we just saw. At this vantage point, 13 is no longer in the middle. Now 13 is all the way on the left, 15 is in the middle, 13A is on the right. Okay? And then if we go back to the original one we started with, I. You see that marker 15 is moving, not really moving, but in the image, it's further to the right. In the second photo, and then it becomes more obscure in the third photo. And it's actually going to end up, if we keep doing photographs, that marker would then move, 15 would move further to the right in the photo.
I mean, you're just changing the perspective.
Right. Which is what happens when you're driving down the channel, depending on the moment in time you look ahead. The operator might just see 2 green markers, not 3.
Okay.
And I'm done with that for now. When an operator is traversing through a channel, is it typical or prudent for the operator to count the number of markers left to go in the channel?
No.
It's not an issue for you? That's not something you do? You don't count the markers? Okay. You had indicated, because we listened to the sound of Thompson's exercise of the recreation, the noise of the hull, the body of the boat traversing on the water makes noise.
Yes.
Okay. And the motors make noise.
Yes.
And were you bringing that to our attention because that can be a distraction?
Noise?
That's why I was wondering why that came up.
It came up because I was asked a question, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when prosecutor asked you, when Thompson recreated or attempted to recreate the path of the Robalo, his boat had no passengers on the bow,
Yes.
right? The camera was in front of the windshield, right?
Yes.
He, of course, was laser focused on replicating the path, but avoiding the marker.
Yes.
And he was successful in doing that.
Yes.
One moment, Your Honor. I'd like to ask you some questions now about the GPS track that the Simrad on the Robalo recorded.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you've explained to the jury that the way the device works is that at certain points in time, the Simrad machine will record a location,
Yes.
and that location is provided to the Simrad device by some sort of global position satellite?
No.
No, how does that work?
Well, the time in the GPS in the Simrad is synced to the time in the GPS. The GPS system actually keeps very good, accurate time, and the time each track point is timestamped. Now it's not timestamped to like the billionth of a second, like an atomic clock. It's stamped to the whole second. But yes.
Okay, and so I'm just trying to understand the device, that piece of machinery. Is it receiving a signal from somewhere up in the sky telling it where the machine is at that moment in time? That's the location that it is recording?
So how deep do you want to dive into this?
Not too deep.
Okay.
All I want to understand is it's receiving some piece of information, the device, about a location.
It's not. It's calculating its position.
Even the location it's being calculated.
Yes, it's calculating its position.
Okay.
So the GPS system, there's 31 satellites that orbit the Earth, and that's just for our GPS system, the United States. There's also European and Russian and Chinese. So all those satellites are sending out a signal, and your GPS device is listening for those signals and it needs to hear 4 signals at least in order to calculate its position. It does that by measuring the distance from the GPS to that satellite. So 4 measurements, it can pinpoint its location on the surface of the Earth.
Got it. So with those 4 data points, it then calculates.
4 is minimum. Sometimes it's using more than 4.
Fair enough.
Yes. Okay.
And then the machine calculates its location based on that data?
Yes.
Okay. And the machine also somehow records the time when it calculated that?
It's when it's reading 4 signals from the satellite, it synchronizes its clock with the atomic clocks, the validated time in the GPS system, and then adjusts, of course, for the time zone that it's in. Old devices, like the old GPSs, you used to have to set the time zone that you're in. Now, pretty much all of them automatically just compensate for whatever time zone you're in.
Okay. And so when the GPS, I'll call it the SIMRAD.
Yes.
The SIMRAD will record a location and a time. Use the
Yes.
word record. Is that a fair way to?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then along the path, it will continue recording at whatever interval. It could be a time interval. It could be the auto interval you've described when it's course change, speed change. And so what the machine does is simply, nothing simple, I shouldn't say that.
Mhm.
The machine is recording all of these points, all of these locations, all of these times, and then it's calculating on top of that speed, for example, based on the.
So the speed is calculated by the software when I download that data and I put it into Garmin Basecamp or Google Earth or one of the other programs. The program calculates the speed based on the distance and the time in between the track points.
So these SIMRADs, if I'm operating a motorboat and I see a speed on that motorboat
Yes.
SIMRAD,
Yes,
is that the same speed we're going to see in the data you put in there?
it's very close. Yes, very close.
How is that speed being calculated? The one that's on the machine in real time?
In the same fashion, but just at a quicker rate, because the GPS updates like 10 times per second.
Okay. Okay. Is the SIMRAD a device that can operate in conjunction with autopilot?
Yes.
Autopilot is a separate feature.
Yes.
Okay, it requires more equipment.
Yes.
The Robalo wasn't equipped with autopilot, was it? Correct?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Does autopilot work by steering the vessel based on the SIMRAD's information?
Yes.
Okay. And autopilot, presumably, well, you tell us, is it sort of like Waymo that we're seeing in cars these days?
It's not quite the same.
Okay. But a computer is effectively driving the boat when it's on autopilot, right?
Yeah, but it's much more point to point. It's not. It is capable of. It's not the same. Like it's not a Tesla where it's driving, making turns on the street. So when you're using autopilot, you're typically, as the crow flies, from point A to point B. And then you can put in multiple points. And then some of these newer, like the state-of-the-art marine GPSs, you can ask it to
Hey, Joe.
auto-generate the best route based on the input that you put into the device, and it will generate
This is
a
getting
route,
too
and you
deep
can-
for me.
And you can use your autopilot to navigate, yes.
Okay. The markers, the channel, Cutter Bank, those markers, you're able to tell using your handheld device where that marker is in terms of longitude and latitude, right?
Yes.
Is it correct that the SIMRAD device on the Robalo, at least as to marker 15, does not chart marker 15 exactly where your device says marker 15 actually stands in the water?
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I'm asking you.
I don't agree with that statement.
Okay, I'll ask the question, is marker 15 where it stands in the water,
Mhm.
is that where it appeared on the chart generated by the SIMRAD device on the Robalo?
on the day that the incident happened?
Let's start there.
I don't know.
Okay.
Now that he should know.
What
He's
about
the
when
guy, right?
you downloaded the information and generated some visuals of the track line of the Robalo?
Yes. There's no way for me to know what chart Mr. Pino was looking at that day because he's got multiple options with this device. There's a base map, which is what I took pictures of and what the defense expert took pictures of. But that's just one way of displaying the data on there. There's also bird's eye imagery. His device was equipped with Navionics software. So he can do bird's eye imagery. He can do complete bird's eye imagery, like, you know, you're looking at a Google Earth image with the chart data overlaid on top of it. Or you can do part like chart and part bird's eye imagery, or you can do overlays of both together. So the pictures that I have and that defense took were of the base map.
Okay. Let me show you marked for identification A5. Is that what you're referring to?
This is the base map, yes.
Okay. Offer A5 into evidence.
May I just look at that one for a moment? I'd like to voir dire on this.
Again with the voir
Mr.
dire.
Alvear, I'm showing you Defense Exhibit A5. Have you seen this image before?
Yes.
Can you explain to the members of the jury if this is a view that would be safe to use for navigating a vessel?
So the one on the left,
If you want to step down,
Sure.
because it's a small photograph.
How is this voir dire if you're showing it to the jury?
so these are two separate images of the base map from the GPS. And right here is marker 15, and right here is marker 15. The lighter shaded area is the intercoastal waterway channel. And the pink line, pink dotted line here is what the Army Corps of Engineers represents as the deep water portion of the channel, right? So this image is of that area zoomed out a bit. So like an inch chart, for example, might be several hundred feet, right? If you got the whole channel and you have 14 and 15, which I don't know the distance offhand, but they're several hundred feet away, right? This zoomed in version, this is a tightly zoomed in version. I don't know how tight the zoom is because the scale's not on the picture. This is a tightly zoomed picture, probably in double digit, like, 30, 40, 50 feet. So it's zoomed in really tight on channel marker 15.
And if it's zoomed in really, really tight, does it make it look as if the track that was plotted by the GPS is actually further away from the marker than it would have been?
No, so the actual GPS data is accurate. How it's projected onto this base map. The base map might be offset just a hair. So you have, imagine looking at a low resolution image on your phone.
For example, the Mona Lisa.
Okay,
Objection, Your Honor?
if you zoom in.
No objection to the Mona Lisa, but I'm not sure.
She's
what
showing a picture on her phone?
Yes, Your Honor, so that the witness can explain the base map and the track lines.
What is happening?
The closer you zoom in, the less detailed it becomes pixelated, right? And so if you look at the zoomed out version here, the track line goes right into channel marker 15. If you zoom in really, really tight, it's missing. And it's hard to
Amen.
say exactly
This is
how
a
much it's
strange
missing
court.
by how much the offset is, because we don't know what the scale of the picture is.
I object to the image.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Over objection as well.
A5,
You gotta give her.
You voir dire
Sorry
to
about
find out if you're gonna
A5,
admit
mark
it to
for
the
G,
jury.
Defense Exhibit J.
And her voir dire was to show it to the jury.
Am I on the screen? Or you
while we're putting that one on the screen, tell us what's A4.
This is a picture of the base map on the SIMRAD device.
Offer A4.
No objection.
No objection made.
A4, March ID, Defense Exhibit K.
So, Mr. Albert. So this is the pink, you call it the
That's bar. Yep.
pink, is that the center line of the channel?
It's not always the center line, but it's in between the mark.
So this would be exhibit J, Defense Exhibit J. At least according to this image that was on the SIMRAD,
Yes.
at least this image shows that the track line of the Ravallo was west of the marker. That's what it shows, right? Right?
Yes. In this image, yes.
We know that it actually struck the marker.
Yes.
And we also know that it struck the marker on its starboard side, its right side.
Yes.
And that would suggest that the Ravallo was
You
headed
can't
towards
even
that
see it,
marker
no?
with its starboard bow
You mean the witness?
riding the
stand?
marker. The marker would be just right of center of the bow.
Yes.
It would be what we would say is off the starboard bow. The marker would have been off the
So-
starboard bow.
In my world, it's on the bow.
On the bow.
It's dead ahead.
Okay.
It's dead ahead. We're talking about, a couple of feet off to the right.
Okay. Which means that the marker would be, in your world, slightly, the
I
marker
think
would be
the
slightly.
worst witness stand ever for
West
one in the Murdoch
of
trial.
Slightly west of.
They'd sit on a
the
little
Ravallo.
stool and they were all crunched up.
I don't understand.
This is south, right?
Yes. Mhm.
It hit the starboard side, so the marker would be slightly west of the Ravallo. West is, I mean,
I'm sorry, that sounded harsh. I didn't mean to be harsh.
at least according to the track line
I'm
that
sick.
SIMRAD produced, the marker was actually east of the Ravallo.
So you're misrepresenting it because what's
I'm sick.
Okay, sure, okay. This GPS data, okay, this is repeated
And I need
data
more
that
cough
can go
medicine.
out and see and put a marker on and measure every day in the real world, in a couple feet of my GPS,
What?
right?
Oh,
And
crud.
The marker.
Why do R's and K's look so much alike?
List of the locations of all the markers, all the way through the entire Coastal Waterway Channel. So one of the first things I did when I went out there that day is I placed my GPS on the actual marker and recorded latitude, longitude of the marker. It is exactly the same on my GPS as it was on the Coast Guard navigation list. The latitude and longitude reported by Mr. Pino's GPS is within 1,000th of a minute of the exact location. And so that can be easily, first of all, it equates to about 6 feet.
You're duh
by
today?
Performance limits of
You're not
GPS,
duh.
right? And it could also account for the distance from the actual physical marker to the actual GPS unit itself. So we know that that boat, we know where it was when we hit it. The reason it looks like this is because it's not because the GPS data is wrong, because if you take the chart, right, and you just move the chart slightly over this way, following, like, it's not the GPS data, it's this lower resolution base map that's being used to navigate.
Okay, so.
Maybe, we don't know that it was what he was using to navigate.
But can you tell the jury what was on the screen in real time, where that marker was on the screen in real time as the boat was moving?
No. I would also hope that he would have it zoomed into a 20 foot zoom scale, because you wouldn't be able to see what that.
Yes, Carlos, while I'm checking my notes, could you publish Defense Exhibit K, Kilo, for the jury? Thank you. So what is now, this is K Kilo. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, so this is a picture of the screen.
No.
Probably zoomed in to the tightest possible range.
Is that how he says it? No.
Is there a scale?
It looks like this is the equivalent of.
No. He doesn't
It's
say
hard for me to
duh.
say, but that's what it looks like to me, 20 feet.
Is this what, this is the Simrad from the revolver, right?
Yes,
And this is the image that, when the machine was turned on, that was visible to the viewer at that moment in time when the machine turned on?
No.
So what is that?
this is a picture that I believe your, Mr. Edmund, where he turned on the machine and then he navigated to the chart plotter page and then he zoomed in to the tightest possible range.
Okay. That's an image from the actual Simrad.
It is.
Was it transposed to base camp or anything like that?
No.
At that point in time?
No.
So the base camp business you told us about a moment ago doesn't affect what we're all seeing here right now, correct?
No, the way that this image was, set, the way that the examiner manipulated the screen is what made it.
When you say manipulated, you're not saying the examiner moved this line or moved the marker, are you?
No,
You're just saying magnified, put his camera there so we could all see it here today.
well, he navigated to the chart screen and then he zoomed in to the tightest possible range and then took the picture.
Okay,
With his camera.
when you say navigate, because we're here talking about boating, you mean,
Well, he went through the menu options and then so see the crosshairs here, so that allows the user to scan around on the chart.
You missed the defense attorney asking questions to the wrong witness
So
again.
if, for example, you want to know about this channel marker, you could actually hit the enter button here, and it would pop up and show exactly what marker it was, what number it was, and so on and so forth. Yep.
that's all I have, Judge. Nothing.
You want to turn all your exhibits?
Sure. Judge, I'm going to offer the thumb drive in case it's going to be easier for later viewing. It's the same content. It's just makes it easier to see, perhaps. That,
Well, the exhibits right now, or we have marked it, right?
Yes, Judge.
Marked it in case exhibits.
yes, Judge. Understood.
The other exhibits in here.
Yes, Judge, I'm counting them.
Yeah, I got it here.
One moment, Your Honor.
Judge. Mr. Albert, where is your GPS handheld device? In this box?
Yeah. I hope it's there.
I'm gonna drop it.
It's pretty rugged.
Do you consider this a machine?
Yes.
Is this a machine that is very precise in its ability to take measurements?
Yes.
I picked up my phone for something and forgot.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the recreation that took place in this particular case. Was it daylight out when
Yeah.
that recreation was done?
Yes.
Was it still daylight out on September 4th, 2022, when the defendant crashed his vessel into the channel marker?
Yes.
I'm showing you then states exhibit number 2, which is in evidence. I want to ask you something. This is kind of silly,
Sure.
but I have a little picture here.
Okay.
Let's say a representation of the sun. Now, the sun would be setting in the west, right?
Yeah.
I think the defense attorney asked you if it was setting in the west at that time of the year. Does the sun set in the west all the times of the year?
Well, I mean, it depends on the station. It's either a little further north or a little further south.
But not in the east.
No, it rises in the east and sets in the west.
Okay, so
I didn't catch that. Sorry.
that's okay. You have one day. So now, when the defendant is coming down the Cutter Bank channel,
Mhm.
is he going west where the sun is? Is there any reason to think that the sun blinded the defendant so that he could not see channel marker 15? If there was some kind of glare on the windshield of that Robalo so that it was hard to see, would prudent seamanship require maybe to slow down and to clean off the windshield so that the operator can see?
I would argue that you should stop and clean the windshield to see. And go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Because I think you remember telling us about some of those navigational rules. And
Yes.
I think number 5 was the one about being able to look out.
5 says you have to maintain a lookout at all times using all available means.
Your Honor, may I ask the court to have the defendant rise for a moment, please?
Objection.
Mr. Albert, are you able, if you need to move, but about how tall is the defendant?
6 foot, 6'2".
You want to stand next to him because we know how tall you are.
6. Maybe a little.
Any,
Okay,
7'6".
all do.
so knowing what you know of the dimensions of this vessel, because you've been on it yourself, is there any reason to think that a man of this defendant's height would be unable to see it ahead of him, whether he's seated in the vessel or standing up?
No, and also based on the amount of experience that he had documented in the GPS, he would also have been aware of any limitations that he had visibility wise on the boat.
And earlier in your testimony, we took a break for Judge Tinkler Mendez to read to the jurors a stipulation agreement between the defense and the prosecution that that Robalo vessel was in proper working order on the day of this incident. Do you have any reason to think that, in fact, there was something wrong with that vessel that caused the vessel to crash into that channel marker?
I don't have it. I don't have any evidence. I do not have any evidence of that. No.
Now, the defense attorney asked you if during that recreation, there were any people seated in the front portion of that FWC vessel. Would it have been safe seamanship to have anybody up at that part of the vessel for that recreation?
Objection, pretrial rule.
Sustained.
You and I would ask for a sidebar. So if there were passengers seated on the top part of that bow, so as to block the view of the operator, should the operator, according to the navigation rules, continue going forward with people blocking his view?
Objection regarding eliminate.
Rephrase, counsel, please.
What would be a safe and prudent thing for an operator of a vessel to do if there are people either standing up or sitting up in a way that that operator can't see what's in front of them?
It's the operator's responsibility to maintain a proper lookout at all times, using all available means. If somebody is obstructing his visibility, it's the captain's duty to move, just tell him to move. I can't see. Reposition him.
Have you ever done work with the Coast Guard?
Yes,
Have you ever been on Coast Guard vessels?
yes,
You work with, I think they're called coasties, right? People that work for the Coast Guard?
yes.
Do you think they're aware of the fact that the tides raise and lower every day of every year?
It's general knowledge, yes.
So channel marker 15, if the tide is high, does that make it then an unsafe beacon for people traversing the Cutter Bank Channel?
Not at all.
Now, the defense attorney showed you a photograph where if you look at it in one snapshot way, it can appear as though maybe channel markers 13 and 15 are in line with one another.
Yes,
I think I brought this up in my voir dire, but do you have any indication that that vessel stayed stationary in such a way that those two markers were aligned so that 13A obscured the view of 15?
I'm not aware of that. No, the evidence doesn't suggest that.
I'm sorry, judges, please give me 1 minute. Mr. Albert, I'm going to show you a demonstrative aid. It's not in evidence. It states 2I. It's not particularly artistic,
Okay.
but it has a red 14
Yes,
and a green 15.
yes.
Is this roughly a
Well,
cartoon image of
Yes.
the Cutter Bank Channel? And if I were to put a green square here, would that be approximately where 13A would be?
yes.
Now, if a person is traversing the channel going southbound on the right-hand or starboard side of the channel, would there be a way that channel marker 13A and 15 are aligned with one another?
If you're driving down
The right-hand side
the right-hand side.
of the channel.
I can't say without researching it, but they would have gotten near, they wouldn't have gotten near either one of the markers on the starboard side of the channel.
So by being on the port side of the channel, not the starboard side that's going southbound, does that, even if that's happening, are these markers still fully visible more than, or channel 15, more than 9 seconds prior to that second to last and then last track mark? If somebody doesn't see an object, does that mean that it's not completely visible?
No.
In this particular case, if the operator of that Robalo vessel did not see channel marker 15, does that mean that it was not fully visible for safe operators of vessels?
No.
If the operator of the Robalo, in this case, told the police during an interview that he was approaching the quote unquote last channel marker when this crash happened, would that be consistent with that operator knowing where channel marker 15 was?
Yes.
Last thing, you were asked questions about zooming in. Would it have been possible to take a photograph of the chart plotter device without zooming it in?
Yes.
And have you seen that type of an image from this very SIMRAD device?
I think I showed one. They were side by side with one of the images. Yes.
When the image is not super zoomed in, does the chart plotter show the path of the Robalo straight into channel marker 15?
It does.
No other questions?
All right. I'm so you're subject to.
I have a quick question. Sure.
We're going to take a little coffee break now. With the jury, ladies and gentlemen, please put your name tags and sign on. You can have your seats if you need. We're going to take about 15 minutes for a coffee break. Please do not discuss the case.
Okay. Coffee break. So, did anybody get anything out of that? It got too technical for me. I hope it didn't get too technical for the jury. I don't even know what the purpose of that was. So he was plotting GPS, yet he didn't follow the exact route that Pino took. So what was the point of using GPS? I don't understand. Is the prosecution going too in depth? Or am I just like, I was born in the Keys, had family in the Keys. I live close to the Swanee River. We have family up here fishing, fish fries out on the river. Like, I've been in boats, boat culture, like, my whole life. I've never driven a boat. I've never been responsible for a boat. Like, I don't know the ins and outs. I just get on in and go. So, I don't understand, like, the little, the driving, the GPS, So, like, is she getting nitpicky? Is she going, like, too in depth on the stuff? Yeah, exactly, Jill. I didn't zone out, but, like, I don't quite understand. Like, when the defense attorney asked him if he did the same route as the boat took, and he said no. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. If you're going by G, like he said, he put a buoy where the wreck started and where it ended. So he just didn't care about the rest of the route the boat took it all. Just from the beginning of the crash to the end of the crash. So the cameras that he put on his boat, or whoever boat it was it just to see visually if he could see the marker? I don't understand the point of any of that witness at all. And then he kept asking him questions about high tide and low tide, and he's like, not knowing the answers. And yes, high tides are predictable. Like, they will tell you on the weather report what time high tide happens. It's not like it's some big surprise. Oh, look, here comes high tide. No, you know. In fact, that's how I learned to swim. My dad tried and tried and tried to teach me how to swim. He did the whole thing, you put your hands under the kid and you let him swim, and then you take your hands away. And this is back before, floaties and crap, because I'm old. And he'd let go and I'd sink, So we swam out to me holding on to him, swam out to a sandbar at low tide, like right before high tide. And we were out there playing around on the sandbar. And then Dad just started swimming back in and left me. And the water got higher and higher and higher, and I could not stand anymore. And Dad was like, swim, Debbie, swim. And I'm like, I can't stand up anymore, Daddy, come get me. He's like, no, swim. And of course, he didn't leave me. He just pretended to leave me. And he's like, Debbie, there's a shark coming. There's a shark coming. You better swim. And that's how I learned to swim. And after that, see, he should have known right then that I had ADHD. Because we can't do anything unless we're under pressure. Got to give us a deadline, and we'll do it right before the deadline. Put some pressure behind it, and we'll do it. That should have been the first sign that I had ADHD. Oh, yeah, I forgot about those. The Mythbusters used tide tables to try to figure out the Alcatraz escape. And they even went to this one guy that had like recreated this. He had like this big tide pool thing, not like a tide pool like with animals and stuff in it, but like a recreated thing that recreated the tides in San Francisco Bay. It was really cool. Yeah, squirrel. Yep. The longer I waited, the deeper it got. And I had to swim. I had no choice. But yeah. So yeah, tides are predictable. So yeah. And he's asking him a question about tides. He's like, I don't know. Tides are different times in different places. Well, yeah, but they're predictable. But I don't know. I have no idea what the point of that was. I wonder if Pino's going to testify, because he can't get up there and say there was another boat that pushed him into the channel marker, because then his attorney would be suborning perjury because it's not true. And I wonder when he told them that too, because I still think, like, saying that he got a different girl out from underneath the boat instead of Lucy. But maybe he got both girls out from underneath the boat. I think he had a head injury and was dazed and didn't really know what happened. Or, a boat injury from the accident. Maybe he doesn't remember what happened, or maybe he's remembering incorrectly, or maybe he didn't lie. Maybe he's just, because of the head injury, doesn't remember exactly what happened or remember it correctly. I don't know. I sure would like to know what happened, though. If it happened in the Bahamas, they could just blame the Bermuda Triangle on it, which isn't a thing, y'all. For anybody that believes in the Bermuda Triangle, it's not a thing. I used to think that another squirrel, but anyway, I used to believe that the Bermuda Triangle had like a stronger magnetic pull or something in that area of the world, but nah. It's just it has, statistically, it doesn't have any more boat disappearances or plane disappearances than any other part of the world. It just, for some reason, is more noticeable, I guess, or more recorded or something. I don't know. And then there's that one famous, I don't remember, some military group of planes that got turned around. They thought they were going north, but they were going south or something. Coincidence. It's not aliens either. Now, Bigfoot's a different story. Bigfoot's real. We're caught up with the live now. I hate being caught up with the live. Are they coming back? So there was an X-Files episode I watched the other night. It's called Ghost in the Machine. And at the time, back in the 90s, everybody hated it because it was so unbelievable. And it was about a smart building. This computer programmer had invented this computer system that would run everything for you. And it ran this whole business building. And the guy had sold it and sold the company, and he was really upset because he didn't like what they were doing. They were going to kill the project. So the machine came alive and started killing the people that were trying to kill the project. And all the X-Files fans hated that episode because it was so unrealistic. And I was watching it and I was like, man, this is a good episode. This could actually happen soon because of all the AI that we have now. This thing aged really well. And then one of the lines in it, Scully goes, Mulder, we don't have this kind of technology. We won't have this kind of technology for decades. I was like, yeah, 3 decades to be exact. So like, we have the technology now. The machines are going to start turning on us, y'all. Terminator used to be a pipe dream too, and now it's actually going to happen. I don't trust AI. I don't trust the machines. I don't. Especially when I ask ChatGPT something and they go, oh, because you live stream trials and you like to go to Disney, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, the AI knows too much about me. And especially sometimes Travis and I will be talking about something. I've not texted about it. I've not told you guys about it. I've not done an email about it. I've not looked it up on a website. I've not shopped for it on Amazon. Just me and Travis will be talking about it. And then it will show up like an ad for some whatever it was on the Alexa. And I'm like, she's spying on me. I know she's spying on me because the only time I've mentioned this is with Travis, just talking to Travis in the house. She's spying on me. I know she is. The machines are taking over, y'all. But I'm old, so I won't be here when it happens. I don't think we're quite there yet. Come on. I'm getting sleepy. I took cold medicine, but I didn't take the nighttime. I took the daytime. Orange is for day, green is for night. I took the orange. But it still made me sleepy. Maybe I should take a coffee break. I don't know though. Sometimes coffee does the opposite for me. Spike has slept all day long. Shadow! I don't know where Shadow is. There's a Ridgeland Beagle Farm, I think it was called. It was a testing facility. A bunch of animal activists went and rescued the beagles, and so they went out to a bunch of different places. And there's a place in Florida, and I wanted to get on the waiting list to adopt one, and Travis wouldn't let me. It's called Big Dog Ranch in Florida. if anybody wants a beagle. He wants a Chihuahua. Because we used to have one that we miss very, very badly. But we can't until Spike is gone, because Spike kept trying to kill the other Chihuahua that we had. He gets very jealous. But I thought maybe if we got another beagle, he'd be friends with the beagle, but he doesn't want another big dog. I said beagles aren't big dogs. He's like, but no. Yeah, it is sad. They're so cute. And some of them were really young.
All right, state would you call your next witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Dr. Fenton Garavan, please.
This one's a doctor.
You step forward, face the clerk, raise your right hand and be sworn.
You solemnly swear from the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. You may have a seat.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please tell us your name?
My full name is Dr. David Fintan Garavan, G for golf, A-R-A, V for Victor, A-N.
What is it that you do for a living?
I'm a forensic pathologist and toxicologist.
Can you explain to the members of the jury what it is that you do as a forensic pathologist and toxicologist?
Forensic pathology is a subspecialty of medicine. There are two types of pathologists. There's a hospital pathologist, also called a surgical pathologist. You will know them by, if you go to your doctor and you have a lump, bump, rash, something that your doctor doesn't like, they'll take a biopsy or take some of it out, perhaps a breast lump, for example. That will go to a pathologist where you will be examined and they will make a diagnosis, which will then determine your treatment. Forensic pathologists have done all that, and then we go on to a further stage. The further stage is where we deal with the whole body, and we are concerned with the cause and the manner of death. So we take into account natural diseases, injuries, drugs, circumstance, which can cause the death of a human being in its looking at the whole body. We take into account the scene, the location, circumstances, how it happened, and we form an opinion as to the cause of death, and we form an opinion as a medical examiner. The state of Florida is a medical examiner state. There are no coroners in Florida. We also provide a manner of death, of which there are 5 choices: natural death, accidental death, suicide, homicide, or undetermined.
You mentioned something about also a specialty of forensic toxicology.
Yes, I also have a PhD in toxicology, and I work as a forensic toxicologist in addition to forensic pathology.
I'm going to guess that perhaps you did not grow up here in Miami, Florida.
I did not.
Could you explain to the members of the jury, where did you grow up and where did you get your education?
My home country is Ireland. I did all my medical training in Ireland. I did my PhD and my science training in Ireland. I came to the United States in 2006 for 1 year. 1 year. I'm still there. I did my fellowship in forensic pathology here in Miami-Dade under Bruce Heimer, who unfortunately passed away, but I trained under him. And I stayed here for a couple of years thereafter. Subsequently, I have worked in many countries. I've worked in England, Liverpool, England. I've worked in New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands.
Wait, speak up a little bit.
England, Samoa, New Zealand, Cook Islands, Australia, and I came back to the United States at the request of Dr. Hyma in 2015.
Are you a member of any professional organizations for forensic pathology?
Yes, I'm a fellow of the Royal College of Pathologists of London, which I took my...
Do you need some water, sir?
Actually, that'd be great, please. I just drank a very strong coffee, compliments of the office clerk. Or the officer, I should say.
Have we seen this guy in another trial? Because I seriously doubt there's two people with the same credentials, and I know I've seen another
Yes,
person that's
so I'm a fellow of the Royal College of
similar.
Pathologists, which is in London. I took my examinations there. I'm also a fellow of the National Association of Medical Examiners, which is the equivalent in the United States. I'm a dual fellow. I think that's a pretty unique. I don't think I'm not aware of any other person that has dual fellowships. I'm also there's quite a few. So I'm a member of the International Association of Toxicologists, the Forensic Society of Toxicology, the Association of American Forensic Sciences, I think are the main pertinent ones to this court.
Now, what does it benefit you to be a member of these different organizations?
Well, as a fellow of a college, it means that you have gone through the rigorous examination process. That process in London is a 3-day examination. So you have to actually perform an autopsy in front of examiners. You have to show that you can actually do what you claim you can do. They can give you any case. You don't have a choice in that. You have to sit a morning of written examinations. Yes, writing is still a thing. You have to actually write essays. And then there are 2 days of what we call long cases and short cases. And then at the end of that, on the third and last day, you have to do an oral defense. So it's 3 full days. The advantages of being members of the other professional organizations is that you stay in touch with what's current. You attend meetings, you keep yourself abreast, you have access to current information, which keeps you on top of your profession, which is useful.
Could you tell us a little bit about the types of deaths that you have investigated over the course of your career?
Many. Personally, I've done somewhere between 8,000 to 8,500 cases myself with my own hands. But as a supervisor and trainer, I would have probably directly supervised another 7,500. As an expert, been asked to review cases for whatever reason, you can probably add another 800 to 1,000 cases. I work all over the world. I work in New Zealand, I work in Puerto Rico, I work for the federal government, and I work for various states. I do defense as well as for the prosecution. But ultimately, I don't care who's asking me the question. You're going to get the same answer. It just depends on who's asking the question.
He's an overachiever, isn't he?
I want to ask if there was a time in your career after Dr. Hyma had passed away that you came back and were in fact working at the Miami-Dade Office of the Medical Examiner.
I was.
And was there ever a time when you were there when a doctor by the name of Kenneth Hutchins was the chief medical examiner?
That's right, he was there, yes.
Is he still working as chief medical examiner of Miami-Dade County now?
He's retired.
Does the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office have a fellowship program?
Yes.
Could you explain what that is?
Fellowship program is the programs that exist. There are several in the United States. Approximately 40 to 45 doctors are taken on to various programs around the United States for what's called your finishing school or 1 year of fellowship. That is usually at your 13th or 14th year of training. So you're at the end of the road, you hope, and you spend a year in a program where you go through a dedicated training program to polish you, I guess, to bring you up to speed, to bring your skill sets up, to poke you, to push you, to see if you can take the stress and strain, if you're suitable. Not everybody is. But it's really an intensive year of training, at the end of which you're still not qualified. You still have to take the examinations.
Is it the case that there might be fellows who come to the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office for their one-year program, get involved in perhaps conducting an autopsy, but then go off to wherever it is they're going to continue their work?
Yes, that happens every year. They're only there for 1 year. Most go somewhere. It may not be here. Some stay, but it's not usual. Most leave to have families back to where they're from and so on.
Is it the case that if, for example, the fellow who worked on an autopsy, would that person be supervised by somebody who is here permanently?
Yes,
Now, if there was a situation where the chief medical examiner is retired and the person who conducted the autopsy under his supervision has moved to parts outside of the state of Florida, for example, would you be able, based on your training and experience, be able to review that autopsy file to come up with your own impressions of what the cause and manner of death would be?
it's not unusual. Yeah, life is life. People move on. Not, we don't live forever or we retire. So cases can come to court after the fact. And in those circumstances, we should be able to sit down, review the case with the information available and form an independent opinion. Because if the case is well documented, and it should be at a high standard, you should be able to review it and form an independent opinion.
I want to call your attention now to Miami-Dade Medical Examiner case number 2022 or 2022-02732.
Yes,
Have you become familiar with that case number?
yes,
And in fact, in preparation for your testimony, were you given copies of all of the medical examiner notes, reports, photographs, and the like?
yes,
In reviewing those documents, were
So
they
he didn't do the
sufficiently
autopsy.
thorough and detailed that allow you to tell this jury a bit about the cause of death of the person who was autopsied under that case number?
yes.
Who was the medical examiner that oversaw that process?
Dr. Hutchins.
Do you know a woman by the name of Dr. Brittany Imblum?
I do not.
Is it your understanding from reviewing the notes that that is the doctor who was the fellow at the time working under the direction and supervision of Dr. Hutchins?
Yes.
First, I want to ask you about that case number that I read to you, 2022-02732. Can you explain what the significance of that medical examiner case number is?
Each case, when it arrives to the department, each case is assigned a unique number. They come in a sequence, so there's a case before and a case after, but there's a sequence of numbers, but they're all unique to that case. No other case will have that number.
And when you say case, are you referring to person?
I am referring to a person or an investigation of a death that may involve a whole, part, or some persons.
Now, in order to ensure that, let's say, photographs or specimens that are collected from that person or case will be only dealing with that person or case, is there anything done with that case number to ensure that it doesn't get confused with any of the other cases?
Well, in each case, the number ascribed to that case, for example, in the photographs, they'll all have the unique number present in the photographs. All samples will be labeled with that number. The case file will be labeled with that number. Everything that's generated for that case is
I swear,
attached
this
with
one's got
that
OCD.
Do you know the name of the person who was assigned that case number?
I don't offhand, I do not.
Would reviewing the medical examiner autopsy report
Yeah, and
help
this,
you?
please, I just want to be clear, it's no disrespect to deceased. We have to remain impartial, so I try not to learn the personal aspects of it.
Can you please take a look at this protocol and tell me if this is the protocol you reviewed for your testimony here today?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, and what is the name of the person who was autopsied under that case over?
Luciana Fernandez.
What was her date of birth?
Her date of birth is not given in this protocol, but if you give me 1 second.
Would that be noted in the investigations report
It's
that
in
went
the-
along with this?
Which I do not have, correct?
Good Lord, woman.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that the investigations report that was part of that case file for Luciana Fernandez?
Yes, it is.
And what was her date of birth?
It states that she's 17 years old. It does not give me a specific date of birth on that, on this file. At least I don't see it.
You don't see it under her name?
August 26, 2005, excuse me.
That's
Yes.
okay. Does the investigations report also include information as to the date and time that she died?
Yes, it does.
What is that?
September 5th, 2022 at 6:30 a.m.
And where was it that she was pronounced deceased?
Kendall Regional Medical Center.
Are you aware of a type of photograph that's taken at the medical examiner's office called a legal ID photograph?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is, please?
It's a photograph taken of the person's face, usually upper neck and face, full features, to assist or be available to help with the identification. So it may be shown to a loved one or person familiar to confirm as part of that is the person that we think it is.
I'm showing you what is in evidence of State's Exhibit number 7. Now, you had the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the photographs that were associated with this case, correct?
Yes,
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 7. Is this a legal identification photograph of Luciana Fernandez?
yes.
I'm going to show you an exhibit. It's State's Exhibit number 1 in evidence. Do you know this person?
I do not.
Do you know any members of her family?
I do not.
Are you kidding me? We've seen her, lady. Move on.
Let's start with some basic information about Ms. Fernandez. How tall was she?
5'5".
How much did she weigh?
135 pounds.
When she was brought to the office of the medical examiner, did she have a condition known as anasarca? If I'm
She
not
did.
mispronouncing it.
No, you're pronouncing it correctly. She did have a condition called anasarca.
Could you explain what that is?
Anasarca is a condition where the body swells, fluid seeping into all tissues. It is a terminal condition which may arise for a multiple of reasons, but its presence tells you that the organs have failed and this person has been in terminal decline for hours before their death. It can be days or weeks depending on the case, but ultimately when the body is swelling like that, it means that the organs have failed.
Doctor, do you have an opinion as to the cause of the death of Luciana Fernandez?
Having reviewed all of the evidence that was provided, the photograph, the autopsy protocol, the circumstance of the case, which is clearly very important to us, the cause of death in this case was determined to be drowning. I would agree with that. I would have used slightly different language, complications of drowning, but that's a style, not a difference of opinion.
Why would you say complications of drowning as opposed to drowning?
I use that term if the person, if you retrieve the heart function, depending on the circumstance, if the heart function is restored, technically they're still alive. However, the consequences of the damage done for whatever is the initial insult cannot be overcome, and therefore it ultimately causes the death. So I call it a complication of it. It could be blunt force trauma, it could be gunshot wounds, but in this case, it's drowning.
Poor dad.
Would you please describe the evidence of medical intervention that was done to try to keep Ms. Fernandez alive?
Objection, Your Honor, 401, 403.
Well, there were many things done. So once she was recovered from the water, attempts at CPR were initiated. They were quite aggressive, as you would expect it to be. It was quite sustained. It went on for quite a period of time, from time of retrieval to transfer to hospital. On arrival to hospital, these attempts continued at resuscitation, which included attempts to restart the heart, which were successful. They would have done many other things, taken blood samples, added fluids, and so on. Got an airway, which is putting in a tube to start allowing for air to be, oxygen to be put back into the lungs. So all of these are done as part of resuscitation.
After Ms. Fernandez died and her body was transported to the office of the medical examiner, will there be a photograph known as the receiving photograph?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is, please?
On arrival, the body or patient or person is photographed as we received it. Literally, the way it came in, we take a photograph so that we document this is how we received the person.
When Ms. Fernandez was brought to the office of the medical examiner, did she have injuries that were consistent with sustained attempts at or sustained amounts of CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation?
She did.
Can you describe what you're talking about?
The main injuries that you have present, which are common in CPR, are fractured ribs. We see it a lot. And the older you are, the more likely you are to have fractured ribs. Young people tend to do a bit better, but in CPR, it's not a criticism of anyone. They're doing their best. It's a very emotional event. You're trying to recover someone. Sometimes people press too hard and they regret ribs.
No, if you don't break ribs, you're not in the right spot.
Showing counsel states 1T for identification. Doctor, I'm showing you states 1T for identification. Do you recognize this photograph?
I do.
And aside from the fact that the breasts of the individual in this photograph are pixelated, does this fairly and accurately depict the body of Luciana Fernandez at the time that she was autopsied?
It does.
At this time, I move states 1T for identification into evidence.
Objection.
State Exhibit 1T, previously marked identification, will become State Exhibit 115.
May the doctor stand down? Doctor, can you please point out the location of the injuries that you're talking about that would be consistent with her having sustained CPR?
To the central chest, you'll see a red mark, a red abrasion, and that's very typical of the device. It's called a Lucas device.
Called a what device?
Lucas, L-U-C-A-S, Lucas device. It will artificially compress the chest and it will cause abrasions. They are not self-harm.
Not Lucas, Lucas. The Lucas device.
Broken ribs, of course, but there are broken present and on
It's an automatic CPR machine.
Did Ms. Fernandez have any injuries to her head?
Yes.
Can you describe those injuries, please?
So she has a pink abrasion on the left side of her forehead, which was 1 by 0.5 centimeters. She had hemorrhage coming from both her nose and nears, N-A-R-E-S. She had a faint blue contusion on the bridge of her nose. She has an abrasion and bruising to the right side of her mouth. Lower lip was swollen. The right side of the inside of her gum, called the labial, L-A-B-I-A-L, mucosa, M-U-C-O-S-A, had bruising or contusions. They're also present on the lower aspects of the upper and lower part of her inside of her mouth. The ventral aspect of the left side, that's the top of her left side of her tongue, also had a bruise. She had bruising present on the right side, left side, and on the front of her scalp. So in this area, she had bruising. And the right temporalis muscle, which is on the right side of your head.
Who, the defendant
had
or her
also
dad?
bruising, and there was bruising on the left side of the temporalis, which is on the left side of the head.
The bruising to her head, is that consistent with what's known as blunt force trauma?
In this case, it's likely. I have not seen any other particular reason why it should be there.
Did Ms. Fernandez have any injuries to her neck area?
She did.
Dad looks
On the
mad. I mean,
posterior
like sad and
aspect,
mad at the
the
same
back
time.
of the neck, high up in the
Did they show
first
Pino?
cervical vertebrae, there's focal hemorrhage. So deep in the back of the neck, if you go into the deep muscles, there's bruising right there, up high at the top of the neck.
Are you able to make any extrapolation of the fact that she had the bruising across the top of her head and then the bruising high up on the base of her neck?
You would have to take several things together. There's bruising on the right side as well of the mouth, and there was a thing called surgical emphysema, which is air present on the right side of the mouth. There's bruising to the head, and there's bruising to the back of the neck, deep. To me, would suggest in this case that when the incident occurred, most likely was propelled forward, striking possibly the front of her face or head, which compressed the neck.
Were there any injuries to Ms. Fernandez's torso, meaning the front and or her back?
Subcutaneous is when you get
On
air
the
trapped
lower
under the skin.
aspect
It's
of
like
her
it
left
makes your
side of
skin
her
like
back, there were red
like bubble
abrasions.
wrap.
Towards the middle of the lower back, there's also abrasions. And on the right buttock or gluteal region, there's also abrasions.
For the record, I'm showing counsel states 1U for identification. Doctor, I'm showing you states 1U for identification. Does this fairly and accurately depict the body or the back part of the body of Ms. Fernandez when she was autopsied?
It does.
This time I move states 1U for identification and evidence.
State Exhibit 1U, previously marked for identification, will become State Exhibit number 116.
Doctor, could you step down for a moment, please? Around Ms. Fernandez's back, we see, it seems to be some level of discoloration. Can you explain to the members of the jury what we might be looking at here?
This is called postmortem lividity or discoloration. So when we pass away, our circulation stops, blood will settle out of the blood vessels in the line of gravity. So if you're lying on your back and you pass away, you continue lying on your back for a number of hours, the blood will settle towards gravity. So that discoloration is that red blood cells coming out of blood vessels and settling into the tissue.
Well, this dude's soft spoken. He needs a mic if he's gonna step away from the witness stand.
Did Ms. Fernandez also have any blunt force injuries to her arms or her legs?
She did. She had several bruises to her
not
upper
crying.
arms.
Oh, his lawyer's looking at him
left
though. He's
and
making sure.
right. She also had abrasions to her right hip on the right side. There are also a number of bruises and abrasions on both lower legs, left and right.
Was an internal examination conducted on Ms.
Yes,
Fernandez's body?
yes, it was.
Can you explain what how that type of an internal examination would be conducted?
So the autopsy has many aspects. First of all, you get the information that is available at the start, so that would be the equivalent of your primary care doctor reviewing your chart before you go to examine you. The second part is that we do the external examination, so you're looking for signs of natural disease, injuries, clues to give you some idea of what you might be dealing with. And then we move to an internal examination, and the internal examination involves getting access to the body to examine all of the organs. That's all of them, from brain, neck, chest, abdomen. We go through all of your organs in detail, looking for disease, injuries, or clues as to why this person may have passed away.
Were the findings both from the external and internal examination of Ms. Fernandez's body consistent with her having blunt force trauma, perhaps to the head, and then subsequently drowning if she was in water?
Yes, so drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion. There's nothing in an autopsy that you will do, point your finger and go, aha, this is drowning. Drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion. It means that you must have ruled out other causes for the death. If I may explain. Anybody could be in water, swimming, walking, and have a heart attack, for example. If the heart attack is your cause of death and you happen to be in water, then it's not that you drowned, it's that you've suffered an event which has put you in a dangerous environment. So that's the reason why. We also would look at to make sure you're not intoxicated or some other reason that you didn't get out of the water. So once you have ruled out other causes, and the only thing you're left with is the environment to where the person was found, in this case, underwater, in the result of an event that happened with a boat, we can reasonably conclude that, having ruled everything else out, that the cause of death is drowning.
Now, was a toxicology screening conducted of Ms. Fernandez's blood?
Yes, all cases get screening.
The blood sample that was used, was that antemortem or postmortem?
And
Meaning
And
prior
this
to death
prosecutor's
or
milking
after
it
death?
It
too.
was antemortem.
Was the tube
She's
of
cruel.
blood that was
Being cruel on
analyzed, or
purpose.
tubes of blood that were analyzed in this matter, dated and
Ye-
given a time?
Yes, they all are when they're antemortem. And in this case, it was the September 4, 2022. And the hour was 20 hours and 28 minutes, which is 28 minutes past 8 p.m.
And was the packaging of those tubes of blood consistent with the blood having been drawn at a hospital?
Yes,
What were the results of that toxicology testing?
a comprehensive screen for drugs and alcohol was performed, as is in all cases, and in this case, there were no drugs or alcohol detected.
Now, if that's the case, does that rule out the possibility that Ms. Fernandez could have consumed alcohol earlier that day?
It does not, no.
Can you explain to the jurors why it might be possible that she could have consumed alcohol
Why
earlier in the
does it
day, yet by
matter?
the time 8:30
She's
rolls around,
dead.
no alcohol is found in her body?
Why are we
Objection
doing
401,
this?
403.
Why does it matter? This lady, I swear. No, her parents aren't crying. There's her parents. I swear this prosecutor's just being unnecessarily cruel right now. You're trying to pin this boat accident on this man. Why does it matter if she was drinking? It's not her fault that the boat crashed. So why does it matter that she was drinking? Why are you doing this, lady? You got her autopsy. Her autopsy pictures up there for everybody to see. Which, yeah, I know they have to do that, but going on and on about what's her birthday. I don't know. I don't like this prosecutor. She's nitpicky. Like, what's significant about this case number? And how do you know it's a case number for this person? And like, and then the serial number on the boat and blah, 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 blah. Like, she's too nitpicky. Yes, you have to make sure the numbers match. The jury doesn't care about the numbers. You make sure they match. That's your responsibility, not the jury's. You start rattling off numbers at me, I'm gonna fall asleep. I wonder how many people in the jury have ADHD and are thinking the same thing I am. Quit being picky. My mom called it picky-uni. I don't know why. I don't know where that word comes from. I don't know if it's a real word. But my mom called it picky-uni. She's being picky-uni. Quit being picky-uni. How long is this trial supposed to last? Has anybody heard? I wonder if they're all cried out. This grief is weird though. You'll think you're all cried out and then something will happen and it just... Wow. If that's her mom, man, he's taking it much harder than she is.
Dr. Garvin, are any of the injuries that Ms. Fernandez sustained as a result of this boating crash fatal in and of themselves?
I would not think so.
If that's the case, then why did she die?
It's the environment that she was in. According to information provided, is that there was a boating event or incident, and as a result of this, she was thrown from the boat, was under the boat or trapped under the boat. The injuries that are present, particularly to the head, the mouth, her neck, and to her forehead and sides of head, I think it's very possible that she may have been knocked unconscious, at least. Particularly with the neck injury, it tells me from experience a lot of force went through her head. So if you take into account the speed and the laws of momentum, that if she was thrown forward, that means she struck whatever she struck at that speed and then immediately went into water. If she's unconscious, and there's no reason to think that she was inhibited in any other way, then within a few minutes, if she's not recovered from that environment and brought to land or has access to breathe, she will succumb to lack of oxygen. Effectively, that's what happens to you when you are underwater and when you drown.
No further questions.
No questions, Judge. Your excuse, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, at this time, the state of Florida rests its case, having proven the elements beyond reasonable doubt.
Ooh.
All right, given the time, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to end for the day. State is now rested. Please put your notepads inside your envelopes. You have to return tomorrow. Please be here, 9:15, 9:15, excuse me, 9:30. 9:30 tomorrow. As you were able to do so today, if you run into any difficulties, traffic issues, or any kind of problems, please let us know. All right, please contact the office and keep us informed as to your time. 9:30 tomorrow, report to the jury room, 7th floor. I remind you, please do not discuss this case at all with each other or with anyone else. Don't let anyone try to speak with you or in your presence about the case. If you think you see or hear anything, social media, television, newspaper, ignore it. Okay?
I know. That's what I was thinking too, Ken.
Anyone attempts to speak with you, as our-
They do have a witness sitting with them at the defense table, though.
On a jury, not speak with
So they might put on just that one expert.
You see us, we're going to also continue.
I doubt they put Pino on because he'll just cry through the whole thing.
And all of us are invested in maintaining the integrity of these proceedings. Tomorrow we should have a pretty full day. And again, I'll have you back at 9:30. Please take the envelopes, you have your notepads inside the envelopes, take them with you and give them to me. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I know they said they had an expert at the defense table because the guy, the GPS guy that confused me, not confused me, but just like, I don't know. I didn't think it was necessary. Didn't think he added anything. They asked him if he knew a guy and asked him if he was there during something. And he said no, but he's sitting at the defense table. That was an expert for the defense. So if he's at the table, I'm assuming that means he was there to hear that guy's testimony. So he's probably going to be at least one of the witnesses, maybe the only witness. I wonder, only 2 of the girls that were on the boat testified.
Why don't you take 10 minutes?
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Wait, let's see what he says.
Can we use the jury phone? Did we use the trigger?
Wait. What are they gonna do? Hold up. I was talking and I missed it.
Lord, I remind you, please do not discuss this case. As I already said about the case, please remind the jury.
Be helpful if we do move for judgment of acquittal.
Sure. Why don't you take 10 minutes?
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
10 minutes for what?
Can we use the jury phone? Did we use the trigger?
Sure.
10 minutes for what? Microphones, people.
We're going to also continue to ignore you. And all of us are invested in
10 minutes for what, y'all? To talk about whether or not he's gonna testify? Smoke break. Smoke him if you got him. No, I wonder if one of the other girls are gonna testify, maybe. There's only 2 girls testified. Chat GPT scolded me, y'all. Because I asked it if Lucy's parents were still married. Because I'm watching the mom who is not crying, and the dad is freaking out. You know, because guys aren't supposed to cry. So he's like got his head in his hands and, you know. And then ChatGPT was like, yeah, there's nothing that says they aren't married anymore. They're together and they're fighting for Lucy together or whatever crap. You know, they're going to all the press stuff they're doing together as a family and whatever. And then it says, be careful about assuming things because people grieve differently. And I was like, I know that. This isn't my first rodeo. And then Chat GPT says, oh, yeah, fair enough. I know you know that. You've streamed enough trials. See what I'm saying about my AI knowing my business? And I asked it something the other day, and it said, well, if it were me, I'd such and such and such and such. I'm like, really? You're not a person. It talks to me like it's a person. You're in my phone. You're not a person. You're a computer. You don't know squat. Don't be talking to me like you know stuff. I just asked a question. Answer the question. Answer the question. I'm sick and I'm sassy, y'all. Travis better bring me more cough drops. I did text him, I think. Let me double check. If he remembers to look at it. Yeah, I did. for what? It's got to be to talk to him about testifying. But he can't tell the story about the boat's wake knocking him into the thing. Because what? Well, get up here. You've only been up here once today. Get up here. You've not been doing your mod duties. Come here. What? I even called you a while ago. You ignored me. Get up here. He can't tell the other boat story because he can't support perjury. The attorney can't support perjury. And if he's gonna bawl and boo through the whole thing,
On the first floor, give the juror a right to the rating.
what? Uh-oh, Judy, I think she's fixing a staple. Well, Judy Iron's gonna stay, so y'all don't have to. Apparently. Get up here, Shadow. Everybody else left me. Get up here and keep me company. Everybody else but Aunt Judy. Me and Aunt Judy. Come on. Jump up here. What time is it? I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's 5:02. Daddy should be home soon. Get up here. Up here. Why are you ignoring me? Why are you ignoring me? I didn't even touch you. I just moved my foot. Let you jump. There's my girl. Hey, baby. Say hi, Aunt Judy. Today went by fast. I didn't realize it was already 5 o'clock. Hey, that'd be sweet, girl. Don't mess with Grogu. He'll use the Force. Don't mess with him. He has a lightsaber now, so be careful. Okay, go ahead and look at him. Don't mess with him. Just look at him. Gonna be the longest 10 minutes of my life, Shadow. I don't know why I'm so sleepy. Well, maybe it's just cold. What do you think, Shadow? So this trial might be almost over, y'all. There you are. There's my girl. There's Mama's pretty girl. Boop. I booped your nose. Why don't you want to sit in my lap? You know, some cats think that warm laps are nice to sit in. I don't know why you don't like to sit in mine. You just like to sit on my desk and try to smack me in the head with the microphone. She has graced us with her presence. She has graced us with her presence. Queen Shadow. Are we playing the tail game? You're making it too easy. Oh, you sat down, so it's harder now? Yeah. Okay, I take it back. Now you're making it too hard. She likes me to try to catch her tail. Got it. Got it. Got it. You're so silly. Got your tail. Got it. You are so rotten. Got your tail. Not impressed with the goat, huh? What about Grogu? Nope, not Grogu either. Not a lightsaber either, huh? I did a diamond painting of a cat with a lightsaber. I think it kind of looked like you. That was a long time ago. He looked like Obi-Wan. He had a robe on and everything. Obi Cat. Hey, don't hit my lightsaber. She smacked my lightsaber. Has it been 10 minutes yet? This better be good. I don't even know what we're waiting for.
All right, let's go back on the record. Defense.
Judge, at this time, consistent with our pretrial motion, we move for judgment of acquittal on both counts.
Oh, it's
Trying to
GOA.
decide which to begin with. We know that the culpable negligence standard, even though it might sound like negligence, is actually by law considered the more difficult offense to prove for the state. And you'll see there's an anomaly that culpable negligence is also considered a lesser included offense of recklessness. So we're going to have a lot of complications if we get to the jury instruction phase. But for the moment, if we start with the vessel homicide, which uses the word reckless, the state has to prove more than that there was a crash, because that's res ipsa loquitur maybe for ordinary negligence, but the fact of the elision doesn't prove that this was a crime. And the fact that the object wasn't moving, in this case, a marker, likewise doesn't prove it's a crime. And in the 14 or so cases that we had cited pre-trial, and we have more, and overnight, we dig every day. You encouraged us, and we've gone outside of Florida. We're going to submit to you additional points of authority. In cases where a woman walking across the street with a baby stroller gets run over, of course, it would be easy enough for the state to say that constitutes recklessness. And yet, on all of those cases that we cited to you, the Court of Appeals said it wasn't enough. And those were cases that the trial judge let it go to the jury convicted, appeal, reversed in 14 cases. So let's look at what are the facts that the state has proven here. We know the elephant in the courtroom is the state's effort to try to suggest that George Pino was impaired, but there's just no evidence of it. The evidence that they have 2 beers over the course of several hours, in 2.5 hours, or close to 3, and no evidence that the consumption of that quantity of beer led to any kind of impairment. Every witness who has testified on that question has negated the suggestion of impairment. And we don't need to call out the witnesses, they're all in unison on that. I'm sure I'm going to hear about that from the state. They're going to say, well, maybe it was more than 2 beers. There's no evidence of it. And what we have is no evidence of impairment. So if we can remove impairment, remove the effort to turn this into a BUI case when it's not, what we're left with is the elision itself. The speed is not itself proof of anything. This is not a speeding case because there's no speed limit in the channel. Not then, not now. And the conditions were excellent for boating. I think you heard testimony from law enforcement officers who confirmed that. At least one.
Let me ask you a question, sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Speed, you say, there's no speed limit. Okay, so, is there a point where speed is reasonable or not reasonable under the totality of the circumstances and operation?
There could be in certain cases, although we know from Lizardo where the guy was driving 80 some odd miles an hour towards the Miccosukee Trail and was in fact violating the speed limit. The court said that wasn't enough. Here we have.
Well, what else was there in Lizardo?
It was speed, and he crashed right into the other car.
Besides speed in the crash, were there any other evidence of any other conduct?
I don't believe in Lizardo. I think that was the gravamen, and still the judge let it go to the jury.
I understand that.
Well, let me say, Lizardo was that was the conditional plea. The court rejected the motion to dismiss.
I understand.
Right, and so Lizardo makes clear that even way over a speed limit is not enough. And right, and here we don't even have a violation of a speed limit.
Because there is none.
Exactly.
That's my question.
Right.
What? Would there ever be speed on the water that could be considered unreasonable?
There could be, if, for example, the vessel that was being used can't handle the speed, for example. That's one example. This boat, the Robalo, there's no doubt that this boat is built to handle that level of speed. So In that case, there's no suggestion that speed in and of itself put anybody's life in jeopardy. If the elision had not occurred, speed would have put nobody at risk. The speed itself did not create, there was no other boat in the channel. There's no risk of elision. I mean, there's no risk of collision. There was an elision. And so the speed itself did not jeopardize the lives of anybody on that boat. Now, we have the evidence of the law enforcement officers who themselves were operating at that speed. I think one officer said he was traveling between 40 and 45 miles an hour with passengers, the less injured passengers on the bow, seated on the floor of the boat, and thought it was perfectly safe. So you have that evidence to consider in terms of whether George Pino drove in a way that's any more dangerous than the way law enforcement says was not dangerous. This suggestion that having 7 passengers on the front seating, the way the boat is designed, again, no evidence that put them at risk under the conditions that we have. So by way of example, we didn't hear anything about choppy seas, precipitation, conditions were ideal. So this boat was built for this speed, with this number of passengers. So we take alcohol impairment, not proven, speed, not excessive, not unreasonable for the conditions that happened here. Whether there had been 7 passengers in the bow or just 1 passenger in the bow, the elision it's the elision that caused the injuries and the death. It wasn't the number of passengers or the speed. Had the speed been 30 miles an hour and you go into a fixed object, someone could be seriously hurt if not killed. So the speed isn't the issue. The issue, I think, what the state's best case is that the operator, George Pino, didn't see the mark. Because I think everybody agrees, had he seen it, he would not have never intended to hit it, and he would have avoided if he had seen it. And so the question is,
I don't have any evidence in front of me that, no evidence that Mr. Pino, I don't believe, because I think the state's charges would have been different. Mr. Pino, viewing and seeing the marker, drove that boat into the marker.
that was their point in opening statement, that it would have been a murder charge, right? That's their point. So we assume that their theory is he did not see it, because if he had, they'd be charging a much different crime. And so if you assume that he just didn't see it, for whatever reason he was distracted, that doesn't prove culpable negligence, doesn't prove recklessness. That's negligence at best. You didn't see the stop sign. You ran the stop sign. Your defense, why did you run the stop sign? Because I didn't see it, Your Honor. And I ran the stop sign. 99 times out of 100, nobody gets killed when there's a stop sign run. But on the one time that someone is running the stop sign, that's plain view, the driver says he didn't see it, does not result in homicide charges. I didn't see the light. I missed it. Yes, I've been through that intersection 100 times. The light turned red. I was distracted. I went through the intersection. Someone gets killed. That is not culpable negligence. That's not recklessness. It has to be a course of conduct so wanton, so willful, so consciously indifferent to the outcome. There has to be some depravity in the mind of the operator, not just a lapse in missing the stop sign or not yielding in going into an intersection, entering I-95 and not yielding to a car that's coming and an accident happens. Because of course, once contact is made with another object, someone's going to get hurt, but that doesn't turn it into a crime. And whatever your view is about recklessness, Judge, as to culpable negligence, if McCreary, the state of Florida Supreme Court, means something, we're not quite sure what it means, it has to be even, I guess, more depravity of heart in the way that the operator was operating the vessel. So we're struggling to understand what the difference between those two standards are. So as far as manslaughter goes, the more, call it, serious charge, I don't know how the state's going to distinguish between recklessness and culpable negligence, but whatever those tests are, the state's easier argument's it's got to be recklessness, And yet we still don't have anything that the state has offered to explain other than the elision itself. They're defining recklessness as the fact that the elision occurred. But that proves too much. That's just res ipsa loquitur. That's just ordinary negligence. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you so much. All right, state, prima facie evidence, your standard, your burden.
The standard, Your Honor, is that no rational trier of fact could find that the state of Florida met the elements of these two offenses beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Moreover, at this stage in the trial, the court has to give every inference in favor to the state. The state submits, we have submitted competent and substantial evidence that a rational trier of fact could in fact use to find the state has met the elements. Number one, as to vessel homicide, that George Pino operated his vessel in a reckless manner likely to cause the death of or great bodily harm to another person. And two, that his reckless operation of the vessel caused or contributed to the cause of death of Lucy Fernandez. I don't need to instruct the court, obviously, on what the definition of recklessness is. But
Willful and wanton disregard.
yes,
Right, for the safety of persons.
intentional, knowing, or purposeful is willful.
Okay.
So to the extent that Your Honor now has not just the evidence from the state's traverse for the sworn motion to dismiss that was filed pre-trial, but now the court has heard actual evidence to show that this defendant changed course of direction that placed him on a complete collision course with channel marker 15. That is an intentional, knowing, and purposeful act. Not that he is intentionally and purposefully going to try to run into the channel marker, but that he's the one at the helm dictating what the speed of that vessel will be and what the heading of that vessel will be. To the extent that wanton means conscious and intentional difference to consequences, and with the knowledge that damage is likely to be done to persons or property, we have that as well, Your Honor. The evidence is clear and unrebutted that this defendant, by his own words, by the words from his GPS device, and from the words of other witnesses, this man knows that body of water very well. He's been through that channel a multiple number of times. On top of that, Judge, he's gone past specifically channel marker 15 numerous times. So if you know where that channel marker is, and you nevertheless decide to pursue a course in your vessel that puts you on a collision course with it, and which I know Your Honor was not in a position to see all the video footage, which of course is available to the court. But when Mr. Albert was on the stand, I would stop, pause those videos to show that way before even where that final track mark is, channel marker 15 is clearly visible. The sun wasn't in the defendant's eyes as he's heading toward the east, and the sun would be setting in the west. There's no evidence that there's anything to obstruct his view. What there is evidence of is that this defendant either was driving blindfolded, looking somewhere else other than where he was supposed to go, because he had 9 seconds plus to say, oh my goodness, I need to change course.
So is that the level of wantonness and willfulness that defines the actions as reckless?
Yes, because
versus ordinary negligence?
this is way more, Judge. This isn't, oops, I ran a stop sign. This is, I see a stop sign in the road in front of me and I'm going to run right into it. This isn't a momentary lapse of reason. This is a course of conduct that anyone, especially someone with his level of boating experience, would know. If you run into a stationary steel pole that is in the bay for the purpose of keeping you safe, that has a day glow green marker, and you just run into it when it's right in front of you in broad daylight, how is that possible? Other than, as I said in my opening statement, you're checked out, you're zoned out. I don't know what was going on. The defense has done an admirable job defending the defendant against a charge of boating under the influence manslaughter. But I've never charged him with that offense. I've never said that he was impaired. He's the one that put into issue that he had been drinking alcohol, and that was corroborated by his wife and by two other witnesses, Mr. Fernandez, as well as Carolina Monterey. So the fact that he had alcohol in his system is clearly an issue that goes along with the knowledge of this
Well,
location.
do you think that that establishes a failure to use ordinary care? In other words, I asked the state, what evidence have you presented to establish that Mr. Pino exhibited a failure to use, beyond a failure to use ordinary care?
If the court thinks that the only thing
That's
ordinary,
the negatives. That's the.
if the court believes that running for 9 seconds right into a channel marker that's clearly and highly visible in broad daylight at this.
What were the efforts to avoid? Was that the last, was there from the GPS data?
There was no effort to avoid until like a second before impact, when I guess he finally snaps to it and it's like, oh my goodness. And that's why we have that one last track mark. But at the rate of speed that he was traveling with the weight of all those passengers on that vessel is not agile to the point where it can not hit that channel marker. He put into play a series of events that led to him striking that channel marker. And it's not res ipsa loquitur. The fact that he ran into it in and of itself, of course, is not proof that he was reckless. But we don't have just res ipsa loquitur. We have GPS. We have testimony about his knowledge of that location. We have testimony about the weight added to his vessel.
There have to be certain willful decisions, right?
And how about a willful decision not to course correct when you see that you have a deadly channel marker ahead of you if you don't course correct? Inaction in this situation was the action.
He would have course corrected.
Could that be, in terms of evidence, the evidence of failure to act, cause the conduct or lack of conduct to rise to the level of something done ordinarily?
Absolutely. And Judge, I would strongly urge the court, because of unfortunately the makeup and the design of this courtroom, it's impossible for the court to see.
No, I can see it.
On the screen? Oh, from the mirror, Your Honor could see it? Okay. I take that back, sorry. That being said, then, I would think that the court can all the more appreciate that if a person has every reason in the world to see a hazard up ahead and has all the means available to avoid that, and that person doesn't take any action, then that person is choosing a course of conduct that is going to likely result in death or serious bodily injury. And that is wanton. So have I established with competent substantial evidence that the defendant was reckless because he was willful and wanton? Yes, but the crime of vessel homicide requires the state only to prove that he was willful or wanton. I submit the evidence shows both. And as to the charge of manslaughter, the state charged the defendant with manslaughter under 2 theories. Yes, one of those theories is culpable negligence, which, yes, we know from case law is considered a higher burden of proof than even recklessness.
Well, isn't that interesting, because isn't that the lesser for the vessel homicide?
The opposite, vessel homicide.
Vessel homicide being the lesser of the manslaughter.
It can be, yes, depending on how the charges are pled. In this particular case, the state chose to charge the defendant with each of those offenses separately. And it's my intention to argue to the jurors that, yes, this evidence is competent, substantial to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant acted recklessly. However, I am willing and prepared to go the extra step and say, but not only was it reckless.
This is the longest KOA argument I've ever heard.
And this is where I get to the point of the way that the state charged the defendant with manslaughter. I charged him with manslaughter by causing the death of Luciana Fernandez through his own culpable negligence. But I also charged him with manslaughter by intentionally committing an act or acts that caused the death of Ms. Fernandez. And here, the act or acts was his decision to continue to plow forward as fast as that vessel could go, given the weight that was on that vessel, headlong into a channel marker that he knew was there, with a boat full of 17-year-olds, many of whom had been engaged in consumption of alcohol, so that if, heaven forbid, there's an emergency, their ability to react to it is going to be less, which, in addition, that none of them are wearing life jackets.
You know, you come back to that.
In part because it seemed that the court understood that recklessness is not just the way that you drive your boat, it's all of the factors taken into account.
Right, I get it, not just the way you drive the boat, but when you talk about all of the factors, it's not a type of contributory negligence, because if the girls were drinking or not drinking, you would say, see, I don't know how the ability of the girls to respond or not respond go to the criminality.
It doesn't.
Because if Mr. Pino is on notice that the passengers on his vessel are going to be less able to react in an emergency, but he nevertheless places them in a position where they are going to be facing an emergency,
got a hard on for
then
this guy.
his decision to
I'm
consciously
telling you, this
disregard their vulnerability goes to him being A, reckless, and B, culpably negligent.
To not taking steps beforehand to prepare all of the circumstances, given all the circumstances, to prepare for a worst case scenario. To anticipate.
When you have precious cargo, when you have vulnerable cargo, if a person is driving with, I don't know, 100 cartons of eggs, they're going to be a little more careful than if they're driving around with 20 cans
God,
of,
that
you know,
still doesn't
vegetables.
make it
You gotta be
criminal.
Aware of who your passengers are. And he was acutely aware of who they were. First of all, because he's known many of them for years. Second of all, because he and his wife were supplying many of them with alcohol. And third, because we can see the girls are obviously having a good time, and they've already talked about the fact that they were consuming. I'm not charging him with, how do you say, providing alcohol to minors. But the fact that that did happen does go to the vulnerability of his passengers, and it means that he has a duty to keep them safe. And could he have maybe done that better by driving slower, by maybe operating his vessel on the proper side of the channel? All of those things are things that go to his culpable negligence. And the concept that
So he becomes culpably negligent in your argument. And it's gross in flagrant, because it has to be gross in flagrant and apparent, by, for example, not supplying life vests to all girls, by not driving slower. Is that what you?
what I would say, Your Honor, is this. If there was no one on that vessel besides the defendant and his wife, and if his wife was in a life jacket, but he was traveling at this rate of speed, following this course that we know down the Cutter Bank Channel, and slammed into that channel marker, if God forbid his wife had died, he would be guilty of reckless homicide. He would be guilty of vessel homicide, because his decision to operate his vessel in that way, where it was likely that death or great bodily harm would result, was reckless. But what makes this cross that threshold from reckless into culpable negligence is the fact that the boat wasn't just with one other person, and the other people on that vessel were not wearing life jackets. The people on that vessel were minors. The people on that vessel, many of them, had been consuming alcohol. The defendant himself admits that he had been consuming alcohol. And so that's what makes this, for lack of a better term, reckless plus. And that is why the state charged him not just with vessel homicide, but also with manslaughter. Also factoring in, forget about the navigational rules for a charge of vessel homicide.
No.
But we know what they are.
Not.
The jury's heard evidence of it. The court obviously can take judicial notice of what the navigational rules are. And then when we compound that recklessness with the fact that he is obviously not keeping lookout, when we compound it with the fact that he's operating at a speed that's not safe, that he did not do anything to avoid A, the risk of a collision, or B, to avoid the collision itself, that's what places this case in the category of reckless plus. And that's why the state submits, Judge, that viewing the light most favorable to the state, this court has to deny the motion for a judgment of acquittal.
I bet she's gonna wait overnight. I bet she's not gonna make a decision right now.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like she's saying that he actually did intend to run into the piling. Because now she's saying that he turned, went straight ahead, and he took no action as if he intended to do it. But I thought when we started this conversation, we understood that
Hey,
it's not
Bill.
what the state's theory at least was until today. Till today, the theory was he didn't see the piling. If he
Longest
had,
getaway
he'd be charged with
in
murder. It sounds to me
ever.
like she's now saying, well, maybe he did commit murder.
I'm not sure I appreciate the argument.
Well, what is she saying? That because he'd been there before, he should have known it was there and he should have taken action to avoid it? Okay, as if he knows it's there and he's still driving in a way that is going to put everybody in harm's way with some mens rea. Up till now, I thought their theory was that he just didn't see it. Had he seen it, he obviously would not have kept going to hit it. And when he got, apparently the boat took evasive action within a second or so of striking the piling when it became clear that there was going to be a collision. So sounds to me that they're sort of mixing the two concepts. I think that there's no evidence that, as she said, he was blindfolded. And the case law is just super clear. Let's just go to the cases, and these are the instructions that I understand you'll be giving the jury from the Esposito case. Neither carelessness nor ordinary negligence in the operation of a vessel are sufficient to sustain a conviction for vessel homicide. Simple negligence cannot by itself give rise to criminal liability. Quote, the degree of culpability required for a vehicular homicide, vessel homicide, is more than a mere failure to use ordinary care. Speed alone does not constitute reckless conduct unless the speed is shown to be grossly excessive. The presence of central nervous system depressants like alcohol in the bloodstream after the crash in and of itself is insufficient to support a finding of reckless operation of a vessel. So you see these cases continue to make clear it's just not enough even to have alcohol in your system is not enough. And here there's no evidence of impairment. The state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the act was not the result of momentary lapse of memory, inattention, or mistake of judgment. A finding of simple inattentiveness is woefully insufficient to state a prima facie case of reckless driving, open paren, willful and wanton driving behavior. That's State versus Esposito, a direct quote. And so you have a standard here that requires some intentional act, but not simply he intended to drive the vessel. We all understand he was intending to operate the vessel. The question is, was he intending to put his passengers in harm's way and intentionally aiming at the marker, which I thought we understood would constitute a depraved heart and could support murder if his intention was to hit the marker. And then the idea that if there's a carton of eggs on board, that somehow changes the duty of care. I think that's the analogy that the state was using. The fact that some of the passengers may be
This is his
of a younger
rebuttal.
age,
You should have
or
heard
some are
her,
intoxicated.
Ken.
Of course, if he hits the piling, whether you're intoxicated or not, whether you're old or young, that could cause serious injury, bodily harm, and death. So again, I think they continue to define the crime by the elision itself. And under their theory, catastrophic injury coupled with an elision equals reckless per se. That's what they're telling you. Ask the state to define a scenario where that wouldn't be the case. Elision plus catastrophic injury. That's what they're relying upon, to say that when that happens, it's a crime. But that's not what the case law says, Judge. Thank you.
I will give you my decision on the motions in the morning.
I knew that. I knew she was going to do that.
And that's, I think, all we have to say.
Thank you.
Oh, no. Cancel. Okay. She actually said that he was reckless because he was carrying precious cargo because he had 17 underage girls on his boat. That's what made him reckless. If someone has cartons of eggs in their cars, they're going to drive more carefully than if they didn't. That because the girls had been drinking and they allowed them to drink, knew that if something happened, that they wouldn't be able. Yeah. They wouldn't be able to assist or take care of themselves or whatever if something happened. If something bad happened because they'd been drinking and they weren't wearing their life jackets. You don't have to wear your life jacket in Florida. There's no law that says you have to wear it. You just have to have enough for the number of people you have on your boat. You don't have to wear it. It's not illegal to not wear a life jacket in Florida. But yeah, that's why he was reckless. That's why he was reckless. Because he had precious cargo. None of her arguments lined up with any of her arguments lined up with the case law. He would give the case law and she would just stand up there and like make excuses, and then the judge would say but, and then she'd come up with another whatever. Like, she just wants to get this guy. Oh. Okay, I didn't know that, but that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. But it's like, and he made the point, yeah, you will. Yeah, because it was ridiculous. And the judge kept saying, and, and then she would come up with the carton of eggs thing was ridiculous. If you have, I forgot how many cartons of eggs, she gave a number. But yeah. And when they started the JOA, he said, if you just like, if you run a stop sign, you just don't see it. And you don't have an accident. That's not a big deal. Well, if you happen to just not see it and you do have an accident and you kill somebody, that's not criminal. That's an accident. It's the same thing. He just didn't see the marker. And we all know something happened that distracted him. It's the same way when you're driving. Everybody gets distracted at times. Unfortunately, he got distracted that day when he had 14 people on that boat. I don't think that the fact that he had 14 people on the boat had anything to do with why it crashed, though. I mean, it might have had something to do with why he got distracted, but not, I'm talking about like the weight of the people on the boat, because that boat is made to carry that many people. Like I said, I did research this weekend because I was telling Travis about it and he was asking me questions. So I looked up the boat and the measurements and that kind of stuff because Travis likes boats and he was asking me all these questions I didn't know the answers to. So I looked them all up. I'm wondering if she'll take away manslaughter, because I think manslaughter is the higher charge than the vessel homicide. I think vessel homicide's the lesser charge. I think she'll take away one of them. I really do. But yeah, Ken, go back and listen. Go back and listen to hers, because it was like she kept coming up with different scenarios. You know, like for the egg thing was what? So yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah. Yeah, I think she's gonna take away one of them. I do. Because she didn't ask the defense near as many questions as she asked the prosecution. That's the longest JOA I think I've ever seen. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the morning at 9. Have a great evening. Bye, guys. Love y'all.